Namaste. Welcome to the moment of creation. We are starting today a discussion series titled Free Association. Free Association will focus on the discussions covering concepts and issues in psychoanalysis. Today, we shall discuss three issues in psychoanalysis. 1. Paranoia. 2. Difference between addiction and obsessions. 3. Difference between obsessions and delusion. To discuss the subject, we have with us today psychoanalysis consultant Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste.
Namaste.
So, Mr. Vaidya, can we start with what is paranoia?
Paranoia is a non-normal, exaggerated fear of something. That something can be a person, it can be a place, it can be an event, or it can just be an apprehension that something wrong is going to happen. And this non-normal, exaggerated fear or anxiety is to such an impairs the personal, professional, or social life of the person.
So, do we see paranoia as psychological phenomena only in paranoid personality disorder or in other disorders as well?
We see paranoia as a psychological phenomena in a variety of disorders given in DSM-5. The paranoid personality disorder obviously is a disorder which is completely based upon paranoia. But apart from that also, in psychological sense, may not be in the DSM sense, but in the psychological sense, we definitely see paranoia as a phenomena in many cases of generalized anxiety disorder, in many cases of delusion of persecution, in some cases of obsession also, and as a hidden dynamic in cases of sexual problems like erectile dysfunction, in cases of panic attack where you have the fear of everything disintegrating around the end of the world kind of situation, and also in cases of uh, all avoidance related problems of social avoidance, avoiding people where paranoia is unconscious.
Okay.
So in many cases of avoidant personality disorder also, there would be an unconscious paranoia of getting close to a person. So paranoia is present overtly or covertly in a variety of disorders.
Right. So, what is the psychoanalytic explanation on causation of paranoia?
Uh, when we say paranoia, we are looking at non-normal exaggerated anxiety. We are not looking at rational fear. So if there are three lions in front of me and I feel terrified, this is not paranoia, this is real fear. But when there are no lions in front of me and I start having anxiety with the thought, what if the lions are to come here? Now that is where the paranoia is, that essentially it is exaggerated anxiety about something negative happening. So the psychoanalytic causation is, why is the person having this apprehension? What happened in the past that this person now has this apprehension? This is a form of catastrophic thinking, obviously, but why is it happening again and again? And particularly, psychoanalysis would ask the question, why paranoia of a particular thing only? The specificity of paranoia is very important.
All right.
That if a person is paranoid about economic losses why is he not paranoid about an earthquake? So the specificity of paranoia, what we call the story of the symptom, it tells us about the unconscious surrounding elements which are causing the symptom in the first place. So psychoanalysis would go into one, paranoia can be caused because of an open split, that there is a continuous apprehension of the attack of the bad breast. Paranoia can also be caused because of the Oedipus not resolved, that there is a continuing castration anxiety. Paranoia can also be caused because of a non-cohesive ego, that the constant disintegration of ego causes anxiety. Paranoia can also be caused because of not accepting one's sexual orientation, having hatred and anger towards oneself, and that is projected out, and then the outside is feared. Paranoia can also be caused because of a long-term training under parents who are themselves very paranoid about other things. So you just get trained into paranoia. Or it can be repeated unpredictable attacks by the parents can result in paranoid behavior, or unpredictability of parents or teachers can result in paranoid behavior, or a series of misfortunes, maybe sickness of oneself, sickness of the parents, economic losses, real life accidents, natural disaster, right? Being a victim of crime, any of this can lead to a situation where you develop a paranoia.
Right. So, how do we approach healing of paranoia in psychotherapy?
Essentially, we have to go to the traumatic event and see what is the person really afraid of. Because the manifest paranoia is a reflection of an inner event which is the cause of paranoia.
True.
And therefore, it is necessary to go to that inner event which is the cause of the manifest paranoia. And going to that event means getting into deeper psychoanalytic psychotherapy. So in paranoia, we look at the case history and we see if there is a sexual orientation dynamic at work, if there is a attack of bad breast at work, if it is a disintegration problem, if it is a over a time learning problem, if it is a question of actual accidents coming in the way of a person. Right? Once we are clear about what appears to be a provisional causation, we take a particular school of psychoanalysis. So if we are looking at unresolved sexual issues, we will take the Freudian path. If we are looking at the split open, we will take the Kleinian path. If we feel ego strength is not enough, we take the Cohusian path. If we feel it is because of repressed anger which is thrown out, we might take the ISTDP path. Based upon the case history and our idea about the pathogenesis of that paranoia, we adopt a particular school of thought, a school of psychoanalytic psychotherapy, and then proceed towards it. In mild cases, we would be looking at least twice a week, 1 year, and in moderate to strong cases, we would be looking at twice to thrice a week for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
That would be the kind of thing which would be required in general. In paranoia, some of the CBT techniques like gradual exposure, evidence-based analysis are also very powerful techniques to help the person overcome it, whatever extent it can be overcome.
So, I think we have covered some ground in paranoia in a short time. So, coming to the next topic for today, Many of us have a confusion regarding what is the difference between an obsession and an addiction. Can you clarify the difference between the two?
Yeah, I think it is a very subtle and fine conceptual point about which most of us are confused or we are not clear enough. We should start with the fundamentals that in both the cases of obsession and addiction, what is at work is repetition.
Hmm.
And repetition, as Freud said, is essentially a death drive derivative. It represents the status quo uh, preference of any system, and especially the status quo preference of the physical molecular world in which we live and which also constitutes our body and has an effect on the mind. Even if we don't go to such esoteric philosophical discussions, what is clear is repetition is at work in both the places. In addiction, the repetition is accompanied by pleasure. In obsession, it is most of the time not pleasure, but an intrusion.
Hmm.
So there is an intrusion of an obsessive thought against the desire of the person. Whereas in addiction, the repetition is often very gratifying to the person. And the person always does not resist the intrusion of that desire. He is actually syntonic with that desire.
Right.
Right? So the one differentiating criteria is that although repetition is present in both the cases, in obsession it is the intrusion, whereas in addiction it is by and large gratifying and ego-syntonic.
Hmm.
At least till the person gets into a situation of rehabilitation. That is where it becomes dystonic. Right? But in general, it is by and large gratifying and syntonic, number one. Number two, we can look at the two in three ways. One, how can we differentiate addiction and obsession in terms of genesis, manifestation, and healing?
Hmm.
Okay. In terms of genesis, the uh, genesis of addiction and obsession, both of them can come out of anxiety, but not necessarily always. Okay. So addiction can come out of anxiety, it can come out of just pleasure, it can come out of social acceptance, it can come out of the desire to feel manly, it can come out of self-destruction. Whereas if you look at the genesis of obsession, it can come out of Oedipus, it can come out of open split, it can come out of a repetitive guilt, a guilt leading to repetition. Right? It can come out of masochism. So
Hmm.
in genesis terms, the two are very different, except for the commonality of anxiety. That on this parameter, right, both of them can come from anxiety. You can have addiction to take care of anxiety and you can have obsession to take care of anxiety. But apart from this common point in terms of genesis, both of them can come out of very different genesis, the genesis metric, so to say. The source of both of them can be very different. In terms of manifestation, uh, the core manifestation in obsession is intrusion. And in manifestation, it is painful and one feels almost helpless and it is highly impairing. Whereas in terms of addiction, it is often gratifying, often ego-syntonic, often desired by the person. And it is not as painful in its manifestation as it is in case of obsession.
Right.
Okay. Secondly, in terms of healing, right? We might be looking at something like a social acceptance phenomena in case of addiction, but we never see obsession arising out of social acceptance.
Hmm.
Right? So some people may start addiction because of social acceptance need or the need to feel mature and grown up, You will never see that kind of genesis in case of obsessions.
True.
Obsessions would start usually at puberty. Right? Addiction usually would start slightly after puberty. It would be more in the age group of 16 to 18. Whereas for obsession, you will find more of that in the age group of 12 to 15.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, then, of course, the medication, of course, is different for both of them. So what will work for one will not necessarily work for the other. So that's another difference in terms of what will work on them.
Right.
In terms of healing, uh, both of them require deep therapy. Both of them respond well to psychoanalytic psychotherapy, but addiction responds also very well to CBT compared to OC.
Mm-hmm.
So if you apply CBT to addiction, I believe results are much better. To the best of my knowledge, I stand to be corrected, but whatever I have seen of it. Whereas in case of obsession, uh, CBT, I believe, is used to good for reducing it, but to go into the core, you really require psychoanalytic psychotherapy
Mm-hmm.
or something of that sort, which is a depth therapy approach type of. In terms of holistic healing and social group acceptance and social support, I believe in case of addiction, social support works much better than in case of obsession. So if you provide social support to an addiction person, the acceleration in healing is much better. But if you provide social support to an obsessive person, the amount of acceleration it can cause is very low
Mm-hmm.
compared to the effect you see in the case of addiction.
Right.
Okay? Also, uh, in case of addiction, you see severe withdrawal effects. If the rate of giving up is very fast, it shows very severe withdrawal effects.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of effects you don't see in obsession. In fact, if it reduces, the person feels relieved. He does not feel withdrawal.
True.
So you can see these differences in terms of genesis, manifestation, and healing.
Mm.
In both the cases, repetition is involved, but repetition arising out of different reasons, repetition that psychoanalytically can be explained differently, and in terms of healing, different approaches can be used, although both may be psychoanalytic or both may be CBT or a mixture, but different approaches at the micro level can be used to heal both of them.
That's quite clear now. And similar kind of confusion also exists regarding what is the difference between obsession and delusion. Can clarify the difference between the two?
Yeah, you will see two basic differences. The first is the difference of insight,
Mm.
that a person with a delusion, he may be repeating an act. So repetition may be common in obsession and delusion. But in obsession, the repetition is accompanied by insight. The person knows that what he is doing is not something which is logically normal or acceptable, or he doesn't even want to do it. He wants to give it up. Whereas in psychosis of any sort, there is repetition at times, not always, but at times, there is repetition without insight. I'll give an example. Uh, Jung had this famous case documented.
Mm.
When Jung was studying psychosis, at that point, I'm talking about a century back,
Mm.
people used to see symptoms of psychosis as meaningless. They were acts of a disturbed mind without any meaning of their own. Whereas Jung started feeling that the symptoms of psychosis, no matter how absurd or bizarre, they have a meaning in the story of life of the individual. The symptom always comes out of the story. A symptom is never an act of delirium.
Mm-hmm.
It is never meaningless. Right? The symptom is coming out of a tragedy in the story. So every person has a story. In the story, there are some points of tragedy, and it is from these points that symptoms are coming.
Right.
And it is our job as psychoanalysts to apply the psychoanalytic theory to create the bridge between the symptom and the story so that we realize the genesis of the symptom in psychoanalytic terms. Jung had this example with him. He saw a woman who was suffering from schizophrenia.
Mm-hmm.
And this woman was about 55. And the schizophrenia symptoms were she had lost complete interest in her work, in her family, in society, and entire day she was making signs of stitching a shoe like a cobbler. Like she would do something like this, as though she was stitching a shoe
Okay.
like a cobbler. And this action she would keep doing most of her waking time. And she had no other interest in this world. People dismissed her as just a crazy woman. But Jung started taking her case history from those who knew her. And from this case history developed from the informants, Jung came to the conclusion that this started in her when her lover ditched her and her lover was a cobbler.
Okay. All right.
So the apparently repetitive action, right, there is not a general obsession, right? It is a delusion, but it has a meaning.
Hmm.
Right? The woman had no insight about anything. Definitely, she was in the psychosis spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Symptom came out of her story.
Hmm.
So, when we look at difference between obsession and delusion, in delusion there is no insight. In obsession, there is an insight on the repetition.
Okay.
Two, in general, when we see repetition in delusion, the intensity and frequency of repetition is much less compared to in the obsessive compulsive disorder.
All right.
Third, uh, when we get into the repetition of obsession, usually the CBT part works very well. If the person has insight, let us say we are not dealing with a complete schizophrenia spectrum, but we are dealing with limited circumscribed psychosis, and there is repetition. If that person with obsession is treated with the classical CBT methods, my experience is the the response is much better than the response of repetition in psychosis.
Mm-hmm.
The repetition in psychosis responds less to behavioral techniques than it does to much deeper psychoanalytic interventions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Fourthly, the uh, insight as it increases in delusion, the repetition drops suddenly.
Okay.
Whereas in obsessive compulsive disorder, the normal insights of cost benefit analysis, right, of uh, would you like to suffer it for the next 10 years, that kind of thing does not easily work
Hmm.
unless you you give insights into the fundamental causation. It does not work. Whereas in case of very circumscribed uh, delusive kind of obsessions,
Okay.
we often see that at times uh, interpretations which are not very fundamental also can create some small change. Even holding can create some small change
Mm-hmm.
because the ego is able to take better charge of those phenomena. And lastly, uh, the phenomena at work in obsession is essentially uh, channelizing of anxiety generated inside into an obsession or compulsion. Whereas in
Mm-hmm.
delusion, it is generally projecting out, right, the difficult feelings, affects, or ideas outside of oneself instead of channelizing them inside.
Yes.
So the psychological phenomena is different.
Okay, so as we are moving towards the end of our discussion, and before we end, can you give some ideas on how to approach healing of obsessions and delusions?
For obsession, we look at a moderately long therapy. In delusions, we are looking at a long-term therapy. In obsessions, we can go for psychoanalytic, or we can start with CBT and then go to psychoanalytic. In case of delusions, it's better to go directly for psychoanalytic. It's a much deeper issue. Uh, in case of uh, delusion, we can start with holding and then go on to interpretation. In case of obsession, we can straight away go into interpretation if the ego strength is good enough. And in case of delusion, we may have to start with cohesion and then take the school which fits in. In case of obsession, just looking at the case history, we just find out where the anxiety is arising from. Is it from the Oedipus? Is it from a pre-Oedipal phenomena? Is it the disintegration of the ego? Are we looking at the psychotypical psychoanalytic type of anxiety? Or is it the rage towards the parents? Based upon that, we can straight away go to the school of Freud, Klein, or ISTDP, or Kogut, whatever fits in into that part. Apart from that, social support, holistic healing, homeopathy are very good tools to help us in healing of those issues. So we can do psychoanalytic, we can do psychoanalytic plus CBT in obsession, and maybe pure psychoanalysis in uh, delusion, and combine that with holistic, including homeopathy, pranic healing, Reiki, uh, visualization exercises, music, breathing exercises, certain yoga techniques, certain tantra techniques, and lot of positive social support groups. That is a very good way to, at least for the delusional group, it's a very supportive, very salutary experience.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Vedya, for your knowledge with us in the moments of creation. Namaste. In today's episode of Free Associations, we have discussed three themes of paranoia, obsessions, and delusions in concise. You can see more elaborate discussions on the same subjects in our psychoanalysis and DSM-5 series. Do write us at hvindia@gmail.com. Namaste.